Hello there, friends. Welcome to BJJ Meditations. This is BJJ Meditations episode number 80. I'm your host, Joe Hannon. Joe from Jersey, a late night here in Jersey. I tend to be one of these really boring creatives who, gets up early in the morning and goes to bed early too and thrives off of routine. Not one of these like cool Hunter S. Thompson, wild and crazy creatives. I thrive off of ritual and habit. And here I am breaking my ritual and habit because it was a shit day in the office. Lots going on. No time to film or record during the day. So here I am at 10 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, having completed my training for the evening. You may hear the washing machine running below my feet as it cleans my gi. You may hear the baby monitor making sounds behind me. My son's white noise machine playing, I think, rain sounds. It's the only sound I don't find totally obnoxious is rain. I'm really sensitive to sounds that are supposed to be natural but aren't. It's just this artificiality that really bothers me. Anyway, I love Jiu-Jitsu for many reasons. One of the reasons I love it is it has this pacifying effect, which is kind of paradoxical considering the fact that we're simulating murder for an hour and a half on Tuesday night. But my nerves have settled. The irritability and angst I was feeling from my workday has dissipated. And I'm not going to be able to sleep because I'm thinking about all the shit I have to get done that I did not get done, including recording this podcast. So I figured I might as well stay up and do it, I forgot who it was years ago on the Tim Ferriss show, some creative who talked about this dilemma, this predicament where you want to get a good night's sleep, but you just wake up and you can't because you're thinking about work. And he would essentially give himself 2 mornings. He would have the getting out of bed to get the work done despite not being able to sleep, morning 1, and then going back to bed when it was complete and he could kind of put his head out of it. So put it out of his head, rather. That's kind of how this night is going to be shaping up for me. And there's beauty to that. And I will embrace that beauty. So I suppose you're all listening to me, or in the case of my good friend Se Young, who is watching me, one of the few people who watches this podcast on YouTube. Nothing fancy about this outfit, Se Young. It's just a long sleeve t-shirt, man. That's all it is. But for those of you who are listening or watching, you're probably curious to know how Masters went if you weren't following along after low grappling or elsewhere. Here we go. I'll take you through the experience. So things got interesting right away on Tuesday night. Tuesday night was supposed to be like sort of a shakeout night. Shakeout night is a term from MMA conditioning where it's essentially what would be a walkthrough in football. You're breaking a sweat, you're working on your A moves and just keeping things sharp, sticking to your routine. It's more to get your head right than anything else. So I was also running the class, so I had this added distraction of keeping everybody who was going to Worlds safe while giving the students who are going to be competing this weekend a sufficient workout. So my mind was very much occupied with running the class, not so much occupied with my own training. And I had structured the end of the class to be 15 to 20 minutes of pass, protect, sweep, submit, with the competitors at Masters just focusing on passing. And we were passing open seated guard. So I was passing this very large blue belt's open seated guard. And he immediately he just kind of grabbed onto my left leg. And right away, my knee felt compromised. I felt as if he was large. I felt if he rolled, he would just blow out my LCL. So actually, it was my right leg that he grabbed. So it would have been, he latched on the right leg, and I felt if he rolled, he was going to blow out my MCL. So right away, I kind of just accepted the fact that he had my leg, and there's nothing I was going to do about it. And just pivoted around him like a basketball player to get the other hook in. So this way, if he were to roll to the trapped leg, I could kind of just roll with him and put the other hook in and take his back. But he did the thing I wasn't expecting, and the thing that really makes no sense. And he rolled to my left, so away from the trapped leg, essentially rolling his weight onto my left foot, which was planted on the mat in plantar flexion, so heel up, toes down, and just kind of crushed it. And I could just I felt a pop, I heard it. And I just knew, like, that's going to hurt in a little bit. Finished up class, already starting to sting and feel that pain. And just driving home, I drive a manual transmission, and you apply, for those of you who don't know, you apply the clutch with your left foot. And every time I'm clutching to change gears, it just feel my ankle like throbbing more and more and more. Driving home, and I'm just knowing I'm in trouble. I just don't know how much trouble I'm in yet. So immediately put on a compression sleeve just to reduce the swelling as much as I could. And I just knew I wasn't going to sleep. It was just going to be a dark night of the soul. So went down to our basement where I could sleep on a couch on my back and snore my head off and not bother my wife, with my foot elevated to, again, just keep some of the swelling down. And I felt like I slept in like 10 to 15 minute intervals, just waking up in like sheer terror of, oh my God, what have I done? I've put everything I had into this training camp only to be hurt in this stupid way the night before. All these questions about, like, do I bring this upon myself? Why is it that I'm never healthy when I compete? Is this something I'm sort of calling down upon myself as an out? Am I craving this out and subconsciously I'm getting it? Questions like this, things that really, it's like self-immolation, you're just sitting there just burning with these questions that your mind is spinning out. And if you get too attached to them, it can really just disrupt your whole being. So this is what I'm experiencing. And I'm falling asleep and waking up with a jolt like every 20 minutes. So I wake up the next morning, and my ankle's not too bad. I've certainly had it worse. It was worse last year. Same ankle last year that I destroyed right before Worlds. It was worse then. So, I just put on an ankle brace, which of course I have handy for situations such as these, and go to the airport. And I find that in flight, the closer I'm getting to Las Vegas, the more accepting I am of the situation, and that this is the nature of the beast. I told my dear friend Pat, she texted me and asked how I was doing. I told her, and she was concerned. And I said, we're not exactly playing badminton here. This is the trade-off. And all things considered, like, this is much easier for me to manage than just being so sick and depleted in New York. But I find as I'm getting closer and closer to Las Vegas, this acceptance and this presence is taking root in me. And I'm just at peace with everything that's come to pass and everything that's going to be. Finally, like, I make it to the hotel room, and I'm staying at the Palazzo at the Bellagio. And it's a beautiful room, beautiful hotel, 5-star hotel. And I just really, like, there's something about the setting and the view that just ices it for me. I'm looking out the window, and I can see the mountains in the distance. And I'm looking more closely, and I see that, over there's the Westgate Hotel, and there's the Las Vegas Convention Center where I'm going to be competing tomorrow. It was like my destiny was kind of like laid out in front of me in some weird way. And, I was able to sleep really well. I had just accepted whatever was going to come to pass, in a way I don't think I ever had before. And Frances arrived late in the night from the East Coast. She didn't want to use PTO, so she ended up getting super late. And her arrival, her coming to bed next to me, just made that feeling even more profound. And then sort of what iced it was my good friend Dan, who's a chiropractor out in Oregon. We've known each other since college. He came out to hang out and to support and to work on me. He actually adjusted me before the fight, and he worked on my ankle, and, he was saying, everything's like moving pretty well here. He made these minor adjustments. Your hip was a bit externally rotated. He made some adjustments to my sacrum. Everything felt good. And then it was just this process of us like trying to figure out the best way to tape up my ankle in such a way that it wouldn't explode if put under pressure. But of course, all my preparation for this tournament had to change because my initial strategy was to go in and work more of a sweep single style game from the feet, which I've really come to be fond of. And immediately became clear to me that the winning strategy, if there was one for me, was to minimize time on my feet as much as possible. So I went from that scenario into I have to pull guard as quickly as possible scenario. And I'm thinking these things over as I'm getting ready in the bullpen. I have my warm-up routine, which if any of you are ever interested in what I do for a warm-up routine, I'd be more than willing to share that with you. It's kind of like a mundane thing, but you'd be surprised how many competitors just get to the warm-up area and they have no idea what to do. It really pays to have like a routine in your brain that you could cycle through, especially one where you can do it if you don't have a lot of space to prepare. So I'm doing my warm-up routine, and I'm looking across the mat, and there's Marcos Tinoco. And I don't know, I'm wearing my Princeton sweatshirt, so he obviously knows Emily. I doubt he remembers me. I certainly remember him. Now, I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast before, but it must have been 2019, and I was training at Marcelo's in New York, and I was training with this Brazilian black belt, and Marcos was training with somebody next to us. And I accidentally kicked Marcos in the head, and like I dinged him pretty hard. And I just remember thinking like, oh my God, did I just give this amazing competitor a concussion? And, I apologized up and down, but I just knew that I was going to be in for it. So Marcos picked me for the next round and just immediately caught me in like his signature shotgun armbar from close guard. And like, man, my elbow just was not right for the longest time after that. I don't think he was like trying to hurt me or anything like that, just to be clear. Like he's a world champion, he's just that good. But yeah, I'm sure he was pissed that I hurt him. So that injury is always kind of fresh in my mind, and I'm looking across the mat at Marcos, and I'm like, yeah, this is a guy who, if all things go according to plan, I might have to fight later in the bracket. And I'm just watching him, and he's on his back with his eyes closed, listening to headphones, eyes up, toward the ceiling. It just looks like he could be on a beach. And I'm just amazed by the diversity of competitive experience of, a person like me who tends to be a bit more nervous, and then a person like him who's seen it all and done it all before. And I remember thinking, like, there is truly informed confidence right there. There's a man who is totally at ease in his surroundings because he's been there and done that, and he believes deeply in his ability to do it again. So, of course, Marcos went on to do it again. But first, I had to get through my fight. So my opponent is a short but somewhat stocky Brazilian who I've never met before or seen before. But I can just tell he has an air about him that exudes confidence and experience. So I know that I have to be decisive and quick if I'm going to come out on top. Immediately, I get collar grip on him, and I use that to try and pull into X guard. But he sees me doing this, I guess, or senses it, and starts to sprawl back. So that quickly gives me an opportunity to put in butterfly hooks, and I feel like this is the missed opportunity of the fight for me. I had briefly double unders with butterfly hooks, and I heard my coach Shane saying like, quick sweep, and like something just didn't feel right. It didn't really feel like I had the position in order to get the sweep. So I let that moment pass, but I was able to elevate him with both hooks and then put him into close guard. And then from there, immediately I worked into the Paul Schreiner stuff I've been drilling for months with the head and arm control, and he just knew what I was doing and just like pushed his way out of it, decisively. And then things kind of got strange from there. Like we ended up running out of bounds and almost like smashing into the other guys on the mat next to us. But this annoying thing kept happening. This guy's gi was like kind of big, and I was working same side sleeve control, and every time I would like get his arm across the midline to start exposing his back, his hand would slip inside of his gi, and he would say something to the ref in Portuguese, and then the ref would stop the match and reset. And this happened like 2 times, and it was one of those things where I was talking to some people on my team about it afterward, and they were like complaining about it. And, shit happens. Like, life goes on. That's the nature of competition. I don't think this guy picked a gi that was too big for him. Probably just the only gi he had. It's the only gi he brought to Las Vegas, and that happened. I remember after one of the resets, I had the grip, and he said to me, like, go, go, go. Like, it seemed he was encouraging me because he recognized sort of the unfairness of the situation. And that struck me as a true gesture of sportsmanship, and one that will stay with me for a while. It was sort of like the opposite of, or the inverse situation of what I experienced in New York when the referee reset the position right before the guy was close to submission, and I'm just thinking, like, what the fuck? You just robbed this guy. I wonder if he had a similar thought. But anyway, at some point I went for K-guard and it didn't work, and this guy was able to pass my guard and put me in side control with like 1:30 left. And I remember there was this real inflection point in the match at that moment where I felt like, fuck me, like I'm in side control again, just like last year, but like I could easily just give up now. But I chose not to. I chose to fight, and I watched the footage, and I felt like I struggled to escape this guy's side control for like a good 15 to 20 seconds, just like attempt over and over and over again, until finally I was able to get him back into close guard. And with time running out, I just spammed as many attacks on him as I could, and just trying to get a finish that I couldn't get. Time ran out, and that was that. This guy won 3-0 and went on to get knocked out in the next round. And he left a nice Jackson Pollock of blood all over my gi, I think from his nose. And afterward he was saying to me, like, he thanked me, and he said, "You're tough. You really made me work." So much respect to that guy. I hope I see him again. Hope maybe next time I can beat him. But I just remember, afterward, later that night, I went out with Francis and Dan and my dear friend Pat to this speakeasy that I like on Fremont Street. And once again, I was just struck by the surreal nature of the sport, and how, like, I have the means to travel to the entertainment capital of the world and stay at a nice hotel and put myself through this gauntlet of self-transformation. And what a privilege it is to sort of be able to do all that, because it takes money, it takes time, and there's certainly people out there who lack both of those things, who would love the opportunity to do it. But it doesn't make it hurt any less. Losing is hard, especially when you set such high standards for yourself, like I do. And like I've said before, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to where I want to go, but I think the difference now in that speakeasy, and as I sit here discussing this after a night of training, is that I feel really settled, and I'm transitioning now into this healing mode where I'm going to rehab my ankle, coaching mode where I'm really going to focus on elevating other athletes in the gym starting Saturday, since we have a huge turnout at a Jiu-Jitsu World League tournament. And also, rebuilding mode. Like, I love this time after a competition where truths have been revealed, and it's now an opportunity to reevaluate the game, reassess, bring in new elements, discover, explore. This is the fun stuff. But I think, above all else, like, I'm not eager to move on, but I'm also not eager. I'm simply just kind of here, experiencing what is unfolding. And, I want to call this episode Arrival, because the last episode was Departure. And it sort of begs the question of, like, well, where have I arrived? And the best I can say is that I feel like on the other side of Masters Worlds, I'm here now. So that's all I've got for you on this late night here in somewhat autumnal New Jersey. I wanted to leave this with you, something you might be interested in. I'm going to be hosting a monthly book club at Princeton Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu where I'm discussing books that are relevant to performance in Jiu-Jitsu or performance in life. And the inaugural meeting is going to be on Sunday, September 29th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern at the school. But there's also going to be a Zoom option. So I would like to extend the Zoom option or the in-person option to any of you who might be in the New Jersey area to attend. There's a registration link, which I will put in the show notes of this podcast. I encourage you to sign up there and would love to see you on the interwebs or in person. I defer to you. And the only participation requirement in the book club is reading the fucking book. But the good thing is that Meditations, the first book we're going to read is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, which of course is the namesake and inspiration of this podcast, BJJ Meditations. I don't know if I've ever said that explicitly. It's a wonderful short book and it's available for free all over the internet. And I'm just looking forward to getting into it with you. So if that speaks to you, it's totally free. Just click the registration link in the bio and I will see you on September 29th. And I'll be sure to mention that too on upcoming episodes if you're still on the fence about it. But that's all I've got for you folks on this fine New Jersey evening. Thank you very much for listening, and we will talk next week.